Welcome to the three of you. It is so wonderful to have you here. Thank you so much. Larry, let me start with you. Do you want to just tell us a little bit about Riverside and what you have helped to create and where we are now?
Absolutely. Thanks, Joe, and thanks for the invite here tonight. We're thrilled to be here. Riverside Community Care is a fairly large human services organization serving many parts of Massachusetts. About 15 years ago, my colleague Jim McCauley and I started the Riverside Trauma Center, which has been focused on a number of things. Our tagline is we help communities recover from highly stressful events, communities, individuals, workplaces, schools. So we do a lot of work after potentially traumatic events, after the Boston Marathon bombing, for example, and what you'll be hearing about more tonight is the work we've been doing in our FEMA funded program, which is called MassSupport, helping with the state's pandemic response, the behavioral health side of the pandemic response.
Let me just ask, so some people might not know what FEMA is. Can you just say what FEMA is?
Sure. FEMA is thank you for calling me up on throwing letters around like that.
Okay.
That's good. We all do it. It's the Federal Emergency Management Agency. They're the folks who, you always hear about after there's been a hurricane somewhere, there's been a tornado, there's been flooding. FEMA helps fund states, communities to help them get back on their feet. And one of the pieces of it is this, what they call a crisis counseling program. Each state has an emergency management agency. So here in Massachusetts, we have MEMA, Massachusetts Emergency Management Agency. And in fact, the funding comes, as only a bureaucracy can do, through the federal government to FEMA to Massachusetts Emergency Management. And then they partner with the Department of Mental Health here in Massachusetts, who contracts with us at Riverside to do the work that we've been doing around helping support people after the pandemic.
But it actually says a lot because Riverside is taking the lead in this, really. I mean, we've been asked to do the whole of Massachusetts with this. Am I missing something?
No, we're honored, and you're right. The Department of Mental Health came to us and said, you guys have been doing this in this state for 15 years. We've actually had a couple of these kinds of programs, much smaller scale, after some flooding incidents, after the tornadoes you'll remember out in western part of the state, 2011. Neal was one of our outreach workers then and was highly engaged and involved with us. So we got him right on board again when we were asked to do this work. But we've got about 45 people working in the program now. We ramped up very quickly back in April to get things running when the state asked us if we would do this, if we would run the program for the state. So, yeah.
And so we have Liz Rego here. So Liz, what's your role? And then Neal, we're going to get to you. So Liz?
So thank you for having me on your show. I'm the Southeast team leader for MassSupport. So I'm taking care of all of Southeast and Cape and Islands area, reaching out to, state agencies and advocates and state legislators just to get the word out on what MassSupport is doing during this time to help individuals and the community, get some resources, maybe just, help them feel some sort of comfort throughout this period. So doing a lot of work that way, a lot of things going on with MassSupport, a lot of good things.
I bet. And we're going to dive deeper into that. And Neal, what about you?
I'm in Western Mass here, up in Springfield area. So I'm an outreach crisis counselor with the MassSupport team. As you heard Larry say before, I worked a tornado. So we did at that time, it was called psychological first aid that we did. That's in traumatic disasters. Basically, we're teaching people how to become, if there's such a thing as normal after a traumatic disaster. Now we do what we call SBR, helping people, giving them skills on how to cope with things, teaching them how to cope with the situation, how to handle things. So that's basically the teaching we're doing right now. That's from churches to the beat of the streets here in Springfield. You're talking about city officials. You're talking about hitting everybody in every part of Western Mass, starting with the mayors. That's what we did. We called everybody, state legislators in every town, to let them know what we're doing and how we can be a help to them. Let them know we're here, basically.
And you use the letters SBR. Did I hear that right?
SPR.
And what is that?
That's a skills for psychological recovery. It's a model that we use, helping people to recover. COVID-19, as you know, has affected everybody in some type of way, and even more so now, especially here that this second surge is happening. So we're doing our best to get out here and let people know we're available, and plus that the service is free. That means a lot when people know that.
Yeah, that really helps. Let's just go right to it, Larry. How do people actually access this?
Yeah, great question. You know, it's interesting. The traditional model that FEMA, Federal Emergency Management Agency, in their crisis counseling programs has is, you know, after a tornado, after a hurricane, after a flood, they set up the program, and the outreach folks typically, you know, go in pairs. They go knocking on doors, door to door. How you doing? How are your kids? How's your family? Anything we can help you with? But we can't do that now, right? We can't be right up front and close with people. So we're trying to find other ways. We've got a statewide phone number that we're trying to get out there so that people know about it. We've got our website, MassSupport. The name of the program is MassSupport, MassSupport.org, which has some resources, some information, has the phone number. People can, through that, they can email us, they can call us. But, you know, I wish more people were picking up the phone and saying, hey, I need to check in. I need a little support. But people don't always like doing that, right? You know, I'm sure you talk about this a lot on your show, Dr. Joe, that, you know, if we have an intense headache, if we have an intense stomach ache, we pick up the phone, we call the doctor, or we go to see a nurse or something. But when people are struggling with emotional stuff, they figure, what, this is some kind of like character issue or something. They don't reach out as much. So what we've been trying to do is find other ways to connect with people. So we're using social media. We're using a lot of Zoom, right? Like this on the Facebook part of your show. We are having town hall meetings where we're inviting guest experts, where we're having everyday people talk about their experiences, about what's helping. We've got one coming up soon on housing, how to help people with the housing issues, you know, that are coming up. A lot of people are really worried. Are they going to get evicted? What if they can't pay the rent? How can they apply for, you know, support and substance? We had a show on a couple of weeks ago about just dealing with the holidays, right? How are we, you know, you started off talking about how these holidays are different, right? And that comes with a bunch of losses. Yeah, we're grateful for things, but there's still a lot of losses in that. So how are we managing that? So we're trying to get a lot of information out in different ways. Support groups, you know, all kinds of different ways. And we're trying to be thoughtful to do this in a bunch of different languages too. Because in Massachusetts, we've got lots of communities that speak different languages. Liz, I should ask you to talk about, you're setting up one of the town halls meetings pretty soon. That's going to be in Portuguese, right?
So we're working on that, and we're hoping it's sometime in January, and it will be done in Portuguese.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, because,
And
go on.
sorry, the town hall that Larry was talking about is December 15th at 7 o'clock. The one that he just mentioned about housing. And we have some really good, great guest speakers coming from the Attorney General's office to talk about housing, evictions. So it's going to be a great town hall.
And that's going to be through Zoom, so people can access that?
Yes, it will be through Zoom on Facebook. I believe it's going to be Facebook Live.
Yeah.
And then actually 2 days after that, we're going to be doing it in Spanish as well. Same topic. So we're covering it in English, Spanish, and Portuguese.
I think that's wonderful because, you know, this COVID is not confined to one group or another, certainly. And, you know, we also are very aware of the language that we use here on the Dr. Joe Show, because we have certain voices that we always want to promote, and that happens to be our sponsors. And so I want to be able to promote our sponsors right now in their language. So Ben, let's take a commercial break and we'll be right back with the Dr. Joe Show.
Stretch the